Hey there, dear viewers. Welcome to Obsessed with Werewolves. I'm so glad you're here because I know you, like me, Ellis Quain, have a passion for all things werewolf. From their captivating tales to their mysterious nature, we're going to explore it all. So, let's dive right in and satisfy our obsession together. Lykaon. There's a difference between the future a person expects and a future fate is set out for you. Sometimes someone can easily say that when they finish school that they are going to go on and become a doctor or a biologist. Later, they realize that they're going to be neither and instead become the janitor for a fast food restaurant for reasons unknown. Some might say they're going to marry a famous actor or actress, then find out that their true love is a mathematician who teaches at a university. Of course, they never think about their past lovers from childhood because it was a thing of the past. Why would they? My childhood lover was a beautiful girl named Bree, green eyes that shone in the sun, golden hair that radiated light, and a smile that could do wonders to my mind. Even my mother and father had believed she was the one for me. We had always gotten along fairly well and even continued being friends throughout higher education. It was the perfect life. What happened? She found her one and only not long after she and her family moved. Bree loved Darren and moved on. Didn't even look back at me. Some might ask why she would do that when we had been friends, lovers even for as long as I could remember. I always told them fate was the reason. Those who understood us nodded their heads and felt sorry for me. Those who didn't understand us gave me funny looks and asked how fate could do anything when it was my choice. To them, I never knew how to answer because it was something I could not explain easily. Fate, or as some like to call it, the moon goddess, brings two persons together. That couple are then called mates. I am one of those who believes in fate. I am, like most eyes would believe, am not human. I am a werewolf and have two forms, wolf and human. My human side is better able to control emotions and actions. My wolf side will, let's just say, is the complete opposite. My wolf, large and black with golden eyes, resides within my mind while in my human form. I am able to speak to it mentally and have conversations like I would another human. Though the language is somewhat different, my wolf and I are to become alphas of our pack someday very soon. And we can't wait. We've been training for this our whole lives and are impatient for the day to come. The only problem is, we don't have a mate yet, at least we haven't found her yet. We thought Bree would be our mate, our Luna, to rule beside us and bring the next generation of pups. We were sorely mistaken after we met Darren. My wolf and I yearn for our mate, whoever she may be, from the deepest parts of our hearts. We go out at night and even howl out longing and frustration, only to be earned silence from the moon and forest. My heart was aching, but it was nothing compared to my wolf's. See, when a wolf doesn't find his or her mate after a certain point, it goes into a depression state worse than any human could ever have. Once the wolf acquires it, the human form slowly starts to fall ill with different symptoms. Sometimes, this can last months or years, making the individual suffer the pain for what seems like an eternity. For the lucky ones, they get maybe a few weeks at best. It doesn't matter though. It still hurts. My packer family is located somewhat north where it is cold, but you can still find green grass in the summer. We are called the Blue Oasis pack, mostly because the nights give off a bluish tint to the land and turns everything glowing. It's quite beautiful, especially in winter. My mother and father Curran Alpha and Luna of my pack are Ariston and Mile. They're wonderful people who are always thinking of the pack's safety while also thinking of their own happiness. It's what good leaders do. It's what I will do when I find my mate, my Luna. If only I'd known just how special she truly was and met her earlier on, I might not be mourning Bree's absence so hard. Opaline, would you like to go out on a run? My father. Marok Spidey, my fated mate. White splashed around me a maroon spun with the beat of the heavy techno music the DJ was playing. Asks me after supper one autumn evening, is it going to be with the whole pack? Because I don't need their pity. My father's expression went from cheerful to gloomy in the snap of my fingers. His beautiful hazel eyes dulled from their usual brightness, and his mouth drooped into a frown. Opal, they're just curious. It's unheard of I cut him off before he could open the wound. I know, but they can be less obvious. Can't they? You can't hide forever. No, I can't. If I do, I'll never find my mate and my wolf will die. I will die. My parents and brother will mourn me, and the pack will become a sorrowful mess. A pack sticks together, plays together, fights together. They will take their alpha's daughter's death to heart just as bad as the alpha himself. You're right. But until my birthday, I think I can spare a few more days in my bedroom, ignoring the lives around me. My father crossed his arms in irritation. Opaline, just because you haven't turned of age yet does not mean you still can't get out there and discover the world. For once, I'm giving you the chance to be free and go wild within our borders. I am giving you the opportunity to let your wolf out and experience life again through her eyes. Maddox Spidey, my fated mate. Lights flashed around me and my wheels spun with the beat of the heavy techno music the DJ was playing. My wolf was just as disappointed with me as everyone else, but at least she has the decency to ignore me than bother me. She only comes around when I let her loose, and that's not often. I don't think I've seen her in 3 months. 5. I feel her in the back of my mind, but she never jumps up to converse with me. What was the point until we found our mate? Or until we slowly died to death and depression and loss? In my mind now, I ask her what she wants to do. At first, she's silent, as usual, but then she crawls forward with her head on her paws and whines. Please. Okay, but I'm going alone. I finally say to my father. He holds up his hands and smiles. As long as you're going, I don't care who you're with. Now, out in the backyard and strip in one of the 5 stalls that line our porch, setting all clothing accessories in a pile before I let my wolf come forth and take control. She is glad for the liberty after being cooped up for so long. I can feel her sigh of relief and eagerness to stretch her legs. Abruptly, my bones start to snap and crack. My body shifting into a beautiful Himalayan wolf with a white chest that softly turns a light tan color along my side, then into a shiny gray on my back. Our tail isn't as thick as most wolves, especially of my pack, but it's tan with a gray tip. And damn, am I tiny. My father can walk right over me and his chest doesn't even skim my shoulders. FCK, my mother, Salin, is a gray wolf and even she's larger than life compared to me. I can't imagine what my mate might be like. Immediately, sounds flood my senses, the breeze in the trees, birds and squirrels chirping, paws scratching dirt and earth as they travel to their final destination. This sense alone is information overload. My wolf shakes her head to clear it before nudging the door open with her nose and patting out into the cool sun rays. For a moment, she just stands there, soaking up anything and everything she can while picking a place to run. I mention the river that borders our northern parts and she agrees, taking off in that direction. Wind whips through our fur. Green and brown fly by as we race through the forest. Wolves of our pack, whispering lips, glance at us before either barking a greeting or waving a hand at us. My wolf, loving the attention of the moment, howls her joy into the sky, causing young pups to squeak their own tune with hers. It was a glorious way of living, free from the rules of the human and their government, yet still protected by the pack and our allies. It didn't matter what we did, as long as we stayed away from human territory, which wasn't hard considering they mostly lived in the cities. I never feared humans, but at the same time, never went near them for the sake of warnings. My wolf stopped suddenly, a familiar scent catching her nose like salt and strawberries. It was a peculiar scent, but one that somehow was very intoxicating. Is that Loop? I thought he went back south to his pack. We inhaled again, and there was no doubt that it was in fact Loop, my ex-boyfriend. Maybe he had to ask father for assistance in something. I suggest because there was no other explanation. Do you think he found his mate? Maybe, but wouldn't her scent be mixed in with his? My wolf thought about this for a moment. Only if they've mated. If they haven't, then we might not get a whiff of her until we're nose to nose. Deciding on going to find Loop, we headed somewhat east and followed his trail. We sniffed possibly 3 others with him, all male, and only 2 of them were mated. How they could be apart from their mates was beyond reasoning. considering my parents could hardly stand to be a mile apart. We were probably right behind them when my wolf caught a different smell that took up our whole nose and filled our body with soothing and calm. I practically swam in the scent, but my wolf was stiff and alert, glancing around for something. What is it? That scent. She brought her nose in the air and inhaled deeply, with smoke and in. Snow. That was the only way we could describe it. It was cool and refreshing like water, but had this thick blanket of something regarding ice, but not exactly solid yet. It was a complicated scent that took our breath away. My wolf burst into a howl that was filled with longing and desire. Beautiful and sad. Heartfelt and open. She poured her song into the air in hopes for an answer she was anticipating. When I asked her about why she was doing it, she responded with, "That's Spidey, my fated mate." White splashed around me and my wind spun with the beat of the heavy techno music the DJ was playing. But my wolf shook herself and started pacing. I just know. I never understood how my wolf knew certain things I didn't. It was like she had this sixth sense that could catch almost anything, even if I can't sense the same thing. Maybe we should head home. My wolf growled low from deep in her throat. He's near. His scent is oddly fresh. Just beyond our borders. He's probably in the next territory. Maybe, but we can't go looking for him. Mate. Max Spidey, my fated mate. White splashed around me and my wind spun with the beat of the heavy techno music the DJ was playing. She kept chanting that for 5 long minutes, scanning the forest while pacing in circles. The thought of finding Luke long gone from her mind. But not mine. I didn't care about mates as much as my wolf did. I mean, yes, I wanted to find him so we didn't die a slow death, but I also wanted to choose for myself. What if I didn't like this mate fate chose for us? What if I liked some other wolf or even human more than I liked this person? My wolf knew who he was by his scent alone, but how the hell was I supposed to know? My mother once told me that I'd know just by looking at him. My father said I'd also know once we had skin contact, and I felt good all of a sudden. My brother, Jacques, said he found his mate just by sending her in a crowd in human form. I couldn't do that. My wolf senses are as dull as a doornail in my human form, not to mention other technicalities. Who was I to recognize him if we suddenly bumped into each other at a meeting by accident? I hardly notice people as it is. Who's to say I won't completely bypass him without blinking twice? My wolf heard my inner thoughts and stopped pacing, giving me a slight whimper. I'm sorry. I know this is new for you two. But you'll know. You'll have me there to sense him if he's ever around. But you never come forth whenever I need you. I say softly. Just because I don't show myself doesn't mean I don't sense what goes on around you. If mate is anywhere near, I'll warn you. Until then, don't worry. I gave her a quick smile before we headed home finally. The scent of snow and with smoke still in our minds, curling and swirling in a haze to the point it was hard to think straight. I wanted that scent all the time. My mouth watered and my human body was stiff with alertness as to where it might be coming from. But it seemed like it was everywhere now. It frustrated both me and my wolf, wanting to rip my hair out over the damn situation. Opaline. At the sound of my name, my body stills and my eyes snap up to a male figure a few feet away. Strawberry and salt. As my wolf informs me, identifying this handsome man I've seen before. Luke. Lykaon, I'm sorry for your loss. Aaron. I know losing your mate must be hard. My father politely says to the alpha of vengeful star. I sat in a chair behind them and mother, barely paying attention to the conversation. Do you know how she died? Lyle, my mother asks. My pack and another were meeting when she took the younger women and teens out for a walk. My beta was with them to protect Maybelle from harm. I rolled my eyes as the alpha clenched his fist. Only he came back alone with some girl. He said the girl was responsible for the accident. How could a girl be responsible for your Luna's death? I asked harshly. Erin glanced at me and said deathly soft. She provoked the attack. That's Spidey, my fated mate. White splashed around me and the rose spun with the beat of the honey techno music the DJ was playing. Her idiotic behavior for messing around, I looked to my father with a sigh. May I please step out for a minute? Knowing I didn't like this pack very much. My father nodded before turning his attention to Erin. Do you remember what this she-wolf looked like? Same as Mabel's, only her fur was a light tan instead of a golden, and her body weak while Mabel was strong and beautiful. I groaned and stepped out of the room, seeing my friend and confidant Kale in waiting nearby. He smirked. You look like someone threatened your mate. If I had one. I growled, walking outside into the sunset. HES blaming his mate's death on a girl's behavior, and Rogue's being aggravated by a girl. Come on. Kale shrugged and let out a heavy sigh. Is he pressing charges? Probably. But he only knows what a wolf looks like, not our human form. And the chances of a Himalayan wolf being near here is damn near impossible. Do you know which packs are bordering his southern side? Whisper Eclipse. A peaceful pack who keep well to themselves unless necessary. My father's never had trouble with their alpha. Kale shrugs again. Maybe the girl moved far away. It's highly possible if she found her mate. Wolves move all the time because of that. I nod, still deep in thought when my wolf starts growling at me to run. When I ask him why, he mutters one word that has me stripping down to shift so he can take over. Spidey, my fated mate. Lights flashed around me and my wounds spun with the beat of the heavy techno music the DJ was playing. Kaelin is on my heels in seconds, not asking any questions, knowing he'll eventually find the answers soon enough. Spidey, my fated mate. Lights flashed around me and my wounds spun with the beat of the heavy techno music the DJ was playing. My surprised and desperate expression probably clued him to what it could be. We were heading to the southern borders. Whisper Eclipse boundaries. Confusion rakes my brain because I be past this territory and never has my wolf acted upon a female scent. He sniffs and I smell the most amazing aroma I have ever experienced, cinnamon and flowers. Sweet and spicy, perfectly balanced and intoxicating my senses like never before. Kale in mind links me to ask. Considering your abrupt departure, I'm going to guess this is important enough for your father's wrath. Right. My wolf grins, showing teeth. More than important. It's a necessity I must find. That was all Kale needed as he gave me a nudge to go faster. Kale was my beta 2B. Once I was alpha. He was to be my second in command and help me and my Luna protect our pack. I had other friends. Others strong and open-minded. But Kale had this way of seeing and understanding what I was trying to explain, therefore giving me ideas on how it was bad or good, and even some suggestions on how to improve. HES my best friend since freshman year, which was less than a decade ago, but still he gets me better than my father sometimes. My wolf stopped at the border, whimpering for some way to reach our mate and let her know who we were. She hadn't been near, but her scent carried on the breeze, along with for others who were already past. We sensed she was getting closer and closer, a kind of strength we could sense driving her forward that was incredible. But something was slightly off in my wolf cowled and tell what. She was different. He knew, but didn't know how. Pulling back and staying low to the ground behind some bushes. Kaolin I watched, waiting for her to burst into our sights and give us relief. I didn't think she'd be in this pack. I shook my head a little in amazement. Neither did I. Been near here plenty of times in the past few years and never caught a whiff. Suddenly, a tiny wolf appeared and jolted to a stop, sniffing around like it had just found something. My wolf narrowed his eyes, completely taken aback by how small this female was. She could fit under him twice. She was like a pup, only she had the elegance and grace of a full, grown she-wolf. He pictured her fitting right underneath his chest, his forepaws on either side of her, his body protecting hers effectively. Our spirits rose. But still we did not move because her movements, although beautiful and elegant, were perhaps off somewhat. Is that your mate? Kaelin asked with slight awe and confusion. Yeah. But Chess, I tried finding the right words to describe what was different. Not wrong, because damn nothing could be wrong with her. But different. I don't know. Kaelin and I watched as she rose her muzzle to the sky and held her beautiful song. I closed my eyes and fell in love with her voice. Her beauty. I could only imagine what she looked like in human form. Lykaon. She's a Himalayan. My happiness was broken at Klyn's words because he was correct. She was a Himalayan, which put her in danger of being the girl Aaron claims is responsible for his mate's death. Of course, she is. I sigh. I won't lie. Lykaon. She'd make a wonderful Luna and mate. Klyn observed. I had to agree. I knew she had the beauty of a Luna, but I could sense her strength as well. She was strong, though small, and carried herself with confidence and prowess. Her ears went flat her head, disappointment rolling off her in waves. Must go. My wolf growled. No, we aren't welcome on our territory. We must be invited first. I reminded him. He whimpered. She wants us. She's calling for us. I know. We stayed watching her for 5 minutes, pacing and whimpering softly before she sulked further into her territory, tail between her legs and head down. Klyn whimpered softly at seeing his future Luna so sad. You need to tell your father. Lykaon. You can finally take your place. He can finally retire and take care of your mother by giving her happiness. We need to get your mate. I stood and started walking back to Arianes. I know we need her, but if Aaron found out what her wolf looked like, Hed try to get to her before I do. I can't do that. Hes going to get to her no matter what. But at least if she's with you, she'll be better protected. My wolf took an instant liking to that comment, and so did I. Klyn was right. I would be able to protect her if we brought her back with us. If she was my Luna, she'd be protected by the whole pack who do love and adore her. The only problem was how do we get around Aaron? When we arrived back at the house, we didn't shift because my father was already waiting for us with a curious, yet annoyed expression on his face. I didn't give any hints just in case Aaron was paying close attention. So we said our goodbyes and my father, Klyn and I, plus our other 6 guards started home north. My father took the lead until we were past Arianes borders and onto our land before slowing down to run beside me. Want to tell me why you were near the Whisper Eclipse pack border? I gave him a grin. I found her. I finally found her. His gold eyes light up with pride. Did you meet her? Who is she? At his questions, I give a small whine. I don't know who she is, other than a Himalayan. My father's ears darted forward in attention. Lykaon he trailed off, seemingly in his own thoughts now. Where's mother? Home. She left right after you went to find your mate. He stopped running and so did I. Lykaon, I understand your reasons for not liking Aaron, but if she is responsible, she isn't responsible. Father, she's not even big enough to be considered fully grown. She's like a pup, and she's so innocent. My father's eyes turned pained and sympathetic. I'm sorry, son. At least let me meet her. I begged. Let me meet her and learn her history. Maybe she'll tell me the truth. A wolf who has killed a Luna will not want to share those details. His voice was firm and full of warning, then turned soft as he said, But you may try. I will not deny you the privilege of getting to meet with her. My wolf smiled and leapt around my father's wolf happily. I can't wait. I will send out a request for you to enter their territory tomorrow morning. We should receive an answer late afternoon to early evening. Do not, however, go looking for her until then. I nodded, acting like a pup again whenever we were told to go run around for some fun. I was going to meet my mate. I finally going to know who my mate was and see just how gorgeous she truly was. It was only a matter of time, Opaline. I told my father and mother about sniffing my mate from the neighboring territory. At first, they were excited for me, but then they said I was not allowed off our territory under no circumstances. When I asked why, they said to not worry about it and would figure out who my mate was soon enough. So I went to bed feeling nauseous and queasy, like something bad was going to happen. My wolf was there to reassure me that our mate would find us if he hasn't already. She promised that when wolves scented their mates, it was the most alluring thing in the world to them, and they'd never get enough. My wolf said that the wind was blowing his way, so maybe he knows and is looking for us right now. I was too sure, but let our hopes run wild. The next morning, I found Loop wandering around. When he saw me, he asked if we could take a walk. I smiled and agreed happily. Apparently, Loop had never found his mate like he thought he would. He said he was able to take the title of Beta in his pack since the Alpha trusted him. I congratulated him on his title and apologized for his lost mate. Talking about his mate reminded me of mine and where he could be right now. I left Loop with his men around mid-afternoon to sulk in my room again. Around supper time, my mother knocked on my door. I allowed her to come in and looked up. "Hey, what's up? We have an important guest tonight dining with us. Will you please come down and eat with us?" I furrowed my brows. Important guest. I thought that was for next week. She smiled softly. This was last-minute notice, even for us. Shrugging, I placed my paper and pencils down on my desk and follow her out the door. The minute we step into the hallway, my wolf goes wild. HES here. HES here. I stop and inhale a deep breath. What smoke and snow? I sigh. Mom, who's our guest? Lykaon, son of Alpha Ariston of the Blue Oasis back up north. HES here. HES here. HES here. My wolf continued to chant in my head excitedly. My mom went ahead to finish the last preparation for the meal while I used the restroom and head to the living room. I don't enter though, wanting to see him before he sees me. First, in the living room, I see my father, talking softly to a young man with dark hair and tan skin. He looks to be muscular and tall, considering he almost reaches past my father's height. Beside this man was another man who stood with his hands in his pocket, slightly behind and to the left of his comrade, almost as if he could sense me. The man talking to my father snapped his head in my direction. I only peeked out at him with wide eyes. I'm not known for shyness, but for some reason, his physique made me want to hide that in his title of Alpha Son. "I won't hurt you," he says, his lips moving precisely with each word. My father says something to him, and suddenly, the man's whole body stiffens, along with his comrades behind him. I silently curse my father for telling this man anything about me. My wolf urges me. HES so tall. That's Spidey, my fated mate. White splashed around me and my will spun with the beat of the heavy techno music the DJ was playing. It's intimidating, I tell her, still hiding. And did you see his muscles? My wolf jumps around excitedly in my head. We know he can protect us now. What if he hurts us? HES our mate. He won't do that. Suddenly, I realize I've even spaced out talking to my wolf and the man is standing right in front of me. I jump back in surprise, and he catches me before I can hit the small table behind me. "Whoa, careful," he says with a small smile. I blink and glance behind him to see his comrade staring at me with consideration. I don't notice the man in front of me is talking and only catch. "Scared you? Are you okay?" I grab onto his forearms to stand, but a shock runs through me and I jump away from him. He lets go of me with his hands up in surrender, showing me he is safe as tingles run through my fingers. I look down to see if I have blue sparks flickering from them, but I see nothing. "You just felt it," my wolf confirms. "Felt what?" "Mating bond. That's your first sign HES your mate." By shocking me, my wolf huffs a laugh. Touch him again. It'll feel better this time. I am not going to randomly touch him just to be shocked again. He won't mind. I mind. Just do it. Before I can do anything, a hand touches my shoulder and I jump. My father is standing beside my mate with concerned look in his eyes. "Opal, are you all right?" I glance to my mate, whose name I have forgotten, to see him watching me in calculating expression. Shit. I think he thinks I'm weak. No, he doesn't. My wolf says with a sigh. "HES trying to understand you. HES never been around a wolf like you. That makes everything so much better." I say dryly to her and she shrugs. I take a deep breath and step around my father toward my mate. He raises a brow and I see gray eyes watching me, as if HES reading my mind about touching him. He holds out his hand. I stare at it then glance to his eyes again. My father comes around beside him and says, "HES just trying to help." I furrow my brows. Unsure. My wolf urges, "Don't worry. He'll be kind to us. Swallowing my nerves, I grab his hand. I feel shocks again, but when I go to pull away, he tightens his grip slightly, keeping me from moving away. Let go of me, I snarl. Just wait, he says patiently. I look to my father. Make him let go before the man pulls me forward and into his chest. I gasp and rest my other hand on his shoulder. Feeling tingles now. Closing my eyes, I let the tingles run throughout my body, giving me a wonderful sensation. One of his arms was wrapped around my lower back, holding me up from falling backwards as I just continued to feel. He lets go of my hand and startles me by touching my eyelids softly. I open and look at him. His smile is soft and kind as he says, "Feel better." I furrow my brows and step back, suddenly feeling small. I look to my father and say, "May I be excused?" My mate looks to my father as well as he did not know what I said, his grip on my body slightly tightening. He was saying something that I could not make out. But then my father said, "Would you like to go with her until the food is ready?" I shake my head, but my mate seems to already be in motion, pulling me behind him towards the backyard. Behind me, his comrade follows and I suddenly feel trapped. Looking towards my mate, I suddenly get angry and pull out of his grip hard. Because I took him by surprise, am easily freed, and cross my arms. He looks at me with shock and confusion and gestures to the door. I glare. I'm not a child. I can walk on my own. He frowns and looks away, mutters something, then looks at me again. Walking up slowly, he says, "I'm sorry. I won't do that again. Will you please follow me now?" Why not? My glare deepens. I don't know you. He holds out his hand and smiles. I'm Lykaon. In from up north in the blue oasis back. I stare at him and see HES muscle everywhere and that the clothes he wears doesn't leave much to the imagination. His t-shirt was just a plain gray while he wore jeans low on his hips. His dark hair was messy but he was overall clean. Lykaon glances behind me and frowns. When he looks at me, he tilts his head to one side and says, "Would you like to run?" "Where?" I immediately ask. He smiles. "You tell me." I must have looked shocked because he laughed and opened the door, stepping aside and ushering me through with a bow. I raise my brows at him in question. Lykaon says, "Ladies first." I roll my eyes and walk past him and towards the stalls. When I go to shut myself in, I feel something stop the door and I look to see my mate looking at me in confusion. "Get out." I hiss. He looks around the tiny space and furrows his brows further. "What are you doing?" "What do you mean?" Lykaon tilts his head in even more confusion, then looks behind him at his comrade who's saying, "They leave their clothes in there for safekeeping. And so, males don't see females and vice versa." I furrow my brows. "Didn't you know that?" Lykaon looks at me and shakes his head. "Rules are different in my pack." He lets go of the door and backs away a couple of steps. "I'm sorry. I'll wait out here." Slowly, I close the door and wonder what kind of rules he has in his pack. Who cares? Hurry up. My wolf urges greedily. Someone's excited. Don't you understand? Well be able to see his wolf. This makes me pause a moment before I smile. His wolf. So many images flew through my head of what it might look like. The possibilities were endless, really. I finished and let my wolf take over. Shifting into my beautiful wolf. My wolf barks once then pushes the door open with her nose, strutting out towards our mate. His friend laughs and says, "I think she's showing off." My mate laughs but nods and kneels, holding out his hand. "She's beautiful." My wolf's eyes brighten up at that and she bounced towards him, licking his hand and face. Lykaon rubs her head in behind her ears, gazing into our eyes with smiling gray eyes. "Can you hear me?" My wolf barks twice as a way of answering. Lykaon. She's even tinier than we thought she was. My wolf tilts her head to the side, confusion swirling in our heads. Lykaon. Kaylin. She's perfect. I tell my wolf to leave now. To leave so I can think. She whimpers a complaint, but I threaten to take control back. So she shakes off our mate's touch and bounds away. Lykaon, chess perfect. Chess beautiful. Chess fearless. Chess everything I want in a mate and more. I was close to losing it today when we were waiting for the reply back from Alpha Merle. I had so many doubts in my head about what he would say. Excuses for not letting me come. Then it finally did come with a reply to join him for supper. I was totally excited about it until her set leads straight into that house. Then seeing her for the first time in human form was absolutely breathtaking. She had a slim body, fit and slightly muscled. Her hair was raven black and tumbled down to her lower back near her hips in waves upon waves of beautiful locks. Her amazing eyes, when I finally got to see them after slightly scaring her, were this amazing shade of celeste blue that made her lightly tan skin pop. That doesn't even begin to describe her personality. I knew when she was hiding that it was who she was. My mate doesn't hide, especially this beautiful girl. Her real self came through right before we went outside and she fought me, demanding my ears to listen to her. Kaylin suggested a run, since she seemed to enjoy it yesterday before she realized she had a mate nearby. Her eyes absolutely lit up at the idea and lit up even more when I let her decide where to go. Mostly because I don't know her territory. When her wolf came out with her tail high in the air and nose upwards, Kaylin couldn't help but laugh. But I was fascinated. Her wolf had the courage to be Miss High and Mighty around me even though we were on her territory. But she seemed to melt under my words about how beautiful she was, running into my arms and licking me with happiness, which is why it doesn't explain why she suddenly ran off. Opaline, I called, but started in racing. Well, that was interesting, Kaylin muttered. Yeah, I trailed off and shifted, bounding after her. For a small wolf, she was a great runner, giving Kaylin a hard time with keeping up. But I was no match for her and she didn't realize it until I was right above her. Letting out a terrified yelp, she skidded to a halt and laid on her belly as I turned around and looked at her. Her tail was between her legs and her head between her paws. She no longer felt comfortable. I saw Kaylin bounding up behind her and growled a warning which made her shrink away from me. Luckily, Kaylin slowed to a stop a few feet away from her, giving her space. I laid on my belly and shuffled forward a little, letting her know that everything was okay. She let out a small whine and I couldn't help it. Standing up, I walk over to her. She shut her eyes tight and started shaking. Carefully, without crushing her delicate little body, I laid on top and licked her nose with affection. She sneezed and looked up at me. In confusion, she shifted slightly, wiggling her little body under mine and let out a bark. I lifted slightly and let her crawl out and turn to face me. She sat down and gazed at me with curious amber eyes before taking a step towards me. I stayed still, not wanting to spook her for fear she'll run from me again. She finally came forward and sniffed me, then seeming satisfied pushed herself against me, her head resting on my shoulder. Lykaon, get her back to the house, Kaylin ordered. My head came up, scaring Opaline, and I saw 4 wolves approaching, all males. Growling, I carefully lifted Opaline by the scruff and carried her back home where she'd be safe. Her whimpers and shaking were hard to ignore, so when I finally made it to the stalls, I set her down gently and licked her muzzle in affection. She turned to me and whined, questioning eyes focused on me. I gestured to the stall and for her to shift, which she only whimpered at. Kaylin, I need help. No answer. Opaline continued to whine in front of me while I'd ride getting Kaylin, but he wouldn't answer. Then, Opaline suddenly let out a yelp and scurried away, eyes wide with terror. I looked behind me and gave a low growl. The wolf gave a growl of its own before a commanding voice said, "Stand down. Do our LS." The Indian wolf whimpered and sat back on his haunches, bowing his head. I backed away slowly, giving out one last growl before turning around and searching for Opaline. Thankfully, her scent was the best thing in the world and I could follow it to where she hid under the porch to the side of the house. I shifted, not caring about my neck dances, only that she came out. Opaline, come here. She gave a high whine of fear and moved farther back into the crowded space. Lykaon. I looked behind me with relief to see Kaylin running up. You didn't answer me. He explained and sat beside me. What are you doing? trying to get her out. I sigh and look at my fearful mate. Ellis scared the shit out of her and now she won't come out. Kaelin took a look and thought for a minute. Do you think you might want to put some clothes on? He says, glancing at me. I scowl. This is no time for jokes. I'm not. He says hurriedly. She won't come out because you're naked. Considering they have stalls. She probably has never seen a male naked before. I grumble and go dress. Then come back and look at Opaline. Her head comes up and she looks me over. Her amber eyes scanning every inch of my body. After a moment or two, she glances at Kaelin before crawling out and into my lap. How did you know? I asked my friend. She kept trying to avoid looking too far down. He said, rubbing his neck. I rub my hands up and down Opaline's body, caressing her into a state of relaxation before I move. Where's the alpha? Inside? Waiting for us. Opaline licked my face before walking away. We stood and followed after her towards the stalls. Did Ellis say why he scared her half to death? He didn't know who we were and was trying to protect her. Her father thought she panicked and didn't recognize him or he trailed off. Or what? Or he thought it was you. Me, I hiss why. Kaelin stopped me some ways away from the stalls, but close enough to see them. Shess never been attacked before according to Alpha Merle. I don't know if he was lying, but he said Shess spent a lot of years in her room, being antisocial, even going so far as to shut her wolf out. I furrow my brows. Years. He nods. I curse and turn back to the stalls to see Opaline walking out of hers with her eyes darting everywhere frantically. I tell Kaelin, we'll talk more later. He nods and lets me run over to my mate, who finally sees me and hugs herself, watching me with wide eyes. I slow down and give her a small reassuring smile. Hi, Opaline. Her eyes flick everywhere, roaming me up and down while also paying attention to what I was saying. When she finally meets my eyes again with her celeste blue ones, she whispers, You saved me. Opaline Lykaon saved my life, and he barely knew me. Are you okay now? He asks, his gray eyes searching mine. I blink and walk up to him, reaching for his hand, just to feel the sparks light up again in my body. You're so big. I blurt. I feel his laughter through his body and look up at him. He says, You're really small. I feel a blush creeping onto my cheeks and step away. I try not to be weak, but being small is weak. He makes me look up at him with a finger under my chin. You are incredible. You run faster than Kaelin, which is hard to do. You can fit into small places we can't because we're too big. You have an easier time of running away, but I'm too small to fight. I explain. My father says so. That's why I ran. I can't fight. He tilts his head to one side and smiles, pushing a lock of hair out of my eyes. You are small, but maybe you don't need weapons to know how to fight. Now I tilt my head and wonder why. You have your own. I look down but only see clothes and dirt. Lykaon makes me face him again, shaking his head. I mean, your wolf has weapons of her own. Shess even smaller than me. That can be an advantage as well as a disadvantage. He takes my hand and smiles. We'll talk after supper. He'll tell you what you can learn. I smile for the first time meeting him. Really? Lykaon gives me a grin and stops right before we go inside. It'll make you the best short woman fighter. I frown. You don't have women fight. Actually, my pack is 20 willing females fight with all the other warriors. I give the option to anyone who is old enough and skilled enough. I light up with what he said and immediately smile. Can I see your pack? Can I come home with you and fight with the other females? A sad expression pales his handsome face as he rubs a hand down it. He says something I can't understand, but see sympathy in his eyes. I furrow my brows and only catch a few of his words. Hey Himalayan wolves, so you must stay here. All my brain processed was the word hate and I pushed him away. I should have known. His brows furrow in confusion, but I move away and into the house, heading straight to my room, and slamming the door. I knock on my door and I groan. Come in. I look up and see my mate in anger. Why the hell did you do that? I raise my brows. Why did I do that? Lykaon nods. My eyes narrow in fury. If you don't know, Then what's the use in coming in here? Opaline. He growls and walks towards me. Tell me what you heard. I punch him in the arm and chest. You hate me. Your pack would hate me. Why would you want a mate like me? He shakes me and I look up at him, shaking his head. He cups my face. No, I said Erin hates you. Erin, not me and my pack. I want to take you with me, but I can't. Not right now, but I will. Soon. My eyes widen in shock and confirmation. Oh, I whisper. I see his Adam's apple go up and down before he takes a deep breath. I recover from my little fit and relax in his arms. Are you hurt? I ask, though I have no idea why because I see no blood. He stares at me for a long while like I had asked him if his father had to heads or something. Opaline, I'm fine. I can be better actually. You what? He smiles softly. I found you. I found my mate. My wolf and I are happy. We're having the time of our lives. You should be too. My wolf informs. Now everything is going according to the way the moon goddess has planned. I shake my head and Lykaon furrows his brows in confusion. What's wrong? Nothing. Just my wolf. He wraps his arms around my waist and cups my face with one hand, sending little tingly shock waves through my body. Your wolf is very beautiful. The most beautiful I've ever seen. Other than my mother. I tilt my head. Who is your mother? He says a name I cannot pronounce and I furrow my brows. Smiling. He grabs my sketch pad and writes her name on the paper. Then lets me see. Lyle. My father is Ariston. Do you not have siblings? He shakes his head. I'm an only child. Lucky me. I smile and point to a picture of my parents. Jacques and I. That's my brother. Lykaon smiles and looks at me. Are you ready to eat? Opaline. I nod but hold him there for a moment. To show him something else as well. It only takes a couple of minutes and my god doesn't seem to mind. But in fact enjoys it. Soon, we meet everyone else in the dining room including Kaylin. Lykaon holds my hand as his comrade comes over and looks down at me. Hello. Luna. I'm Kaylin. Luna. Lykaon squeezes my hand and I look at him. I'm going to be alpha once we can be mated. I'll make you my Luna. My wolf clarifies. It's an honor to be a Luna. You take care of the females while he takes care of the males. That the whole pack respects the both of you. You lead as partners and help each other out with the pack's needs. Like mother and father, yes. I'm going to lead your pack. I ask hesitantly. Not immediately. Lykaon assures. When we get there, well, I'll give you some time to get to know them first. Then when you're ready and only then you can help me lead our pack. I shake my head. Your pack? He becomes serious now. Eyes hardened, mouth in a thin line. You are a part of Blue Oasis now. It is your pack as much as it is mine. It's our pack. Opaline. Your pack? The whisper eclipse. Is my pack as much as it is yours? The only difference is you'll start to help lead Blue Oasis and live there as well. I put a hand on his chest where his heart beats strong. What's yours is mine. Then I put it on my heart. And what's mine is yours. His mouth tugs upwards and his gray eyes brighten a little. Exactly. He looks up and it alerts me to people rushing by towards their seats at the table. Lykaon pulls me closer to him to get out of the way and I watch as our beta. Doer Ellis. Jacques, the future alpha of this pack, and his mate Rona. A couple of men I have never seen before. And hail and find a seat. Jacques says something to Rona and walks over to us. Eyes twinkling with mischief and mouth raised in a grin. I roll my eyes and face him head on. He stops and looks at Lykaon and bows his head respectfully before turning to me. I see you've found your mate. Opal. Go away. Jacques. Aren't you supposed to be helping our father with alpha duties? I snarl softly so not all the guests could hear. He laughs. Lucky me. I got the night off thanks to you. I blink and surprise me. What do I have to do with you, getting the night off? Our father walks up and says to me, the whole pack is celebrating for you. Opaline, you found your mate. You're growing up. Jacques, at my shoulder and smirks. Don't worry. I won't embarrass you too much. I growl low in my throat before arms wrap around my waist and pull me against a hard body. I look up and Lykaon says, I just easing you. Don't let it get to your head. I roll my eyes, but pull my mate to a pair of chairs together near my parents' seats. Lykaon helps me sit first, pulling out and pushing in my chair for me while he takes the one on my left. My father sits on my right, at the head of the table. My mother across from me and my brother beside her. If it were a formal setting, my mother would be at the other end of the table, but she prefers to be close to my father as possible. Lykaon puts a hand on my knee and I look at him. He gives me a small smile and leans forward. This is my first time too, so don't feel too embarrassed. I smile and nod before relaxing a bit. My mother comes out with 2 steaming dishes piled high with delicacies that make my mouth water even though I won't be able to eat half of on one plate. She sets both dishes in front of Lykaon and I and squeezes my shoulder. When I look at her, her azure eyes are bright with pride and happiness. I'm so proud of you. I hug her before settling back in my seat, my nerves on an all-time high. This much attention for just finding my mate. I didn't want to think how all this would go in Lykaon's Pecco no. What if I make a fool of myself? Calm down. My wolf directs calmly. Mate won't let us be embarrassed. He'll help as much as he wants. What if he doesn't know? What if I'm alone? My wolf snorts and rolls her eyes. That isn't happening for a while. At least not until you've been Luna for a year or so. I bow my head and my hair falls like a curtain to hide my face from everyone. I didn't want Lykaon to see my doubts, no matter how foolish they are. I didn't want my parents to see me worrying about my new pack that I supposedly have to lead now. I didn't want Kaelin to think I was weak, because I wasn't. I was small, yes, but I have strength as well. I just hoped nothing gets in the way. My hand squeezes my knee and I look up to see Lykaon staring at me with narrowed eyes. What is wrong? Just thinking, I say softly, waiting for my mother to dish out everyone else's food before I start eating. About what? I shrug. Your pack. Gray eyes soften and Lykaon frowns. They'll accept you. They'll love their new Luna. I hope so. I whisper. Opaline, why wouldn't they? I give him a knowing look and he sighs. Nothing will happen. I'll make sure everyone accepts you. Kaelin and I have. Kaelin. He nods. Why is he beta? Achia's my best friend and someone who can understand my thoughts. I need him for smart, not strength. I have other wolves for strength. Lykaon thinks for a moment. Would you like to see him at work? When? After supper. I smile and nod my head. I would like that. Lykaon nods as my mother and father stand up from their chairs. The meal getting started. My father looks out at everyone and smiles kindly. Tonight, my daughter Opaline has found her mate, a sign of many great things to come. Because of this, everyone gets the night off. You will all enjoy yourselves as my daughter will enjoy herself. With that, we began to eat. Thank you so much for joining me in this obsession with werewolves. I hope you've had a great time and can't wait to come back for more. Remember to subscribe, leave your comments, and share this passion with others. Until next time, keep being obsessed.